Welcome to the Real Estate Investing Club. This is the place everyday real estate investors gather to share their best stories, biggest insights, and favorite tactics to grow a portfolio of cash-flowing properties in today's market. Here's your host, Gabe Petersen.
All right, we are back with another episode of the Real Estate Investing Club. I hope you guys are having a great day, a great week, wherever you are and whatever day it is for you. As always, it's Friday on the podcast, so we're bringing that good Friday energy to you. We have an exciting day because we got Brandon Rickman with us here from Simply Sold Atlanta and FlipGenius. Brandon has done over 500 flips. So if you guys, any of you guys out there, you've watched HGTV, you want to do those flips, you love, the glamour of it, this is the episode to listen to. He also does self-storage, which is one of my favorites, as you guys know. And he has another business that is not real estate related. We probably won't go into it, but it's always fun to, touch on that in these episodes too. So Brandon, I'm excited to jump into this. Thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk with you today and uncover some of our similarities, some of the things we've done in both self-storage and all the real estate world.
Everything. Right on. Well, hey, we always like starting with stories on the podcast. Gives a little color to where, everybody has a unique story in real estate. So why don't you take us to the beginning of your story and just tell us how you got started and then how you got here?
Yeah. So my dad was a builder. So growing up, my brother and I were both always around construction and real estate. From an early age, we were going and sweeping out houses and cleaning up property sites. And then eventually he taught us everything from digging footings, pouring concrete, installing roofs, installing sheetrock. And so we kind of learned from the ground up. My brother went in the commercial side. He's a commercial developer. I stayed mostly on the residential side. Although now we're doing some self-storage, but kind of got into flipping really when my wife was a school teacher teaching math. I was working for another builder in town. I obviously had a background in construction, so I knew that side of the business. And we just really wanted to make some extra money. We never really set out to build a big real estate business or anything. Just wanted to make some extra money to have a little extra, try to leave the 9 to 5 or at least not live paycheck to paycheck. And we found a house in our neighborhood that we lived in. It was dilapidated. Went and knocked on their house and found out the husband had passed away. The wife was moving into an assisted living facility and couldn't take care of the house. So we made them an offer. We bought it and went to the bank and got a loan. We put down our 10% or whatever we had to, and then did all the work out of our pockets and actually did the work ourselves. So my wife and I were painting and tiling and doing all the work ourselves to try to save money, which in the long run, of course, probably cost us more money and more time than needed. So
the first flip
that was our first program.
Nice. Yeah, the first flip I did, or first and the second flip I did it, with my buddies. We were doing the work, and I distinctly remember couldn't do the electrical, and so we hired an electrician to do that. And I remember walking through the flip with him, and he was looking around. We had done the work up to this point, and he was looking around at the tiling, and he's like, "Whoever you hired for the tiling, you should fire them and not use them again because they did not do a great job." And I was like, "Well, shit." At that point, I realized, I should be hiring everything out, and I should not do any work myself.
Right.
Nice, man. So you got started. You really weren't aiming to build a business like a standalone business. You were just looking to get some extra money. But obviously it worked. You guys did the work yourself. You made some money, and you realized, hey, we could just keep doing this. How did you scale from that point forward?
Yeah, so we probably did a deal or two a year on the side for the first few years. My wife eventually quit teaching because we started making more money from real estate than we did from her teaching job. And so she quit, got a real estate license. We were doing some new construction back then as well. So whenever we would buy a lot or sell the house, we were paying that 3% commission. So we said, well, if you get your license, we can keep that 3% on both sides. So we were working together in the business. And back then, this was 20 plus years ago, a lot of inventory, not as many people flipping houses. And so we were able to find the inventory at a decent price and get enough inventory where we could grow and scale. And really, I think all of that changed when we started hanging out with people who were doing more deals. We joined a mastermind group. and got some coaching and some mentoring from people who were doing, 50 deals a year, 100 deals a year, 200 deals a year, and really got a vision for that was possible. Before that, it was kind of, we only knew what we knew at the time. And so having other people who were doing it at bigger scale kind of gave us a vision that was possible. And we also started looking at more off-market properties. So doing marketing to find off-market properties. We hadn't done that in the past. It was all word of mouth or buying through the MLS. And so once we discovered outbound marketing and that we could buy off-market, and had the vision for growing and scaling and that was possible, that's when it really started compounding and we started doing more and more deals.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how much having a group of like-minded investors who are, a couple steps ahead of you, how much that impacts what you see in your business. Like if you have those people around you, you all of a sudden, like your horizon expands and you're like, okay, this is actually possible. This is something I can do. And that's literally, it's just by proxy of just being next to these people, understanding what they're doing, hearing their conversations. It's crazy how that works. And that's why I always suggest people when they get started, like join something, some kind of mastermind, some kind of local meetup, anything where you're surrounded by people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, because that will make you go further than most other things that you put your money into.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always, I've done a handful of flips. Flipping is not mostly what I do, but I always have a lot of respect for people who do, 10, 20, 50 flips a year, because flips are hard. It is a full-time business. You have to have good contractors, good systems, everything. So people who get to the point where they're doing, tens of flips every single year, I have a lot of respect for that. It comes down to the system. So if you could kind of pinpoint the things that you did in order to scale and get to that point, what would you say are the things?
I think the biggest thing for us, so you mentioned our other businesses. So we had a couple of consumer products businesses that we had started, and we're manufacturing products, selling them to everybody from Walmart to Bass Pro, Cabela's, Gander Mountain, all that kind of stuff. And I had an investor who was a full-time real estate investor, but he was an investor in my company. He was a good friend of mine for a long time. So I ended up selling those consumer products company and cashing out. And he asked me, what are you going to do now? And I said, I don't know. I'm going to, look for my next deal. And so he said, well, why don't you come help me run my real estate business? So I went to work with him. We ended up starting 3 other companies at the time, but all related to real estate. But he was doing 100 deals a year. He was flipping 100 houses a year. So it was a big program, big system, lots of people. And I came into that and joined him and helped run that business for a number of years. And so, when we first started back to before then, people would say, well, what CRM do you use? And I'd say, what's a CRM? Right. I mean, if you're not in an industry that uses a CRM, you have no idea what it is. Or, when we were doing cold calling, like you can use some type of program a multi-line dialer. What's a multi-line dialer? I'm picking up my cell phone and calling potential sellers. And so really picking up all of those different things that people who had been there before, like you said, and were bigger than us, and kind of learning those aspects of the business. With a multi-line dialer, you can dial 700 people a day instead of 25 people a day. And so all of those different systems and process.
Not to derail you here, but you're talking about multi-line dialers, and I actually recently switched my cold callers to. I mean, you're still using something like, what is it? We use Just Call, but there's a lot of them out there, like Phone Burner, whatever. I've actually switched them to using just a single line dialer because I feel like we burn through leads when you're using multi-line, because people won't pick up, or people will get called and they won't actually get the call because somebody else will answer. And so I just feel like it burns data. Do you like multi-line dialers, or do you do single line as well?
We've done both. We've done single line and multi-line. We use Mojo dialer most of the time. Yeah. And we've had pretty good response with both. I mean, obviously if we're doing a low volume kind of thing where we're calling, 200 or 300 people a day. And sometimes that's what we do. It might be following up with people from our CRM, or, a smaller, more niche list that we're calling. We'll use a single line dialer. But if we have, we've had times where we're uploading 50,000 leads at one time and we're trying to call through 50,000 leads. Jeez. So multiple multi-line dollars at that time.
Yeah. I guess that's
commercial
and residential. Is residential, you got a lot more data.
Yeah, absolutely. We were sending 50,000 texts a month and, making 50,000 dials a month. So once we got up to scale, it was a machine. But to answer your question specifically, I think it was, working for my friend and learning those systems and those processes. The other thing was we did all kinds of outbound marketing. So we did direct mail, pay-per-click. Pay-per-lead wasn't as popular back then, but it is now. We were doing some pay-per-lead. We were doing bandit signs. We had some people doing door knocking. So we kind of got to learn on someone else's time and dollar all the different outbound marketing strategies. And I ran that piece of the business. So got to learn all of that so that when I left there, when we split up and we went back on our own, I was able to take all that information I had gained and put it into practice in our business.
So, you mentioned a lot of different types of outbound marketing. I'm a huge nerd when it comes to marketing. I love it. I like doing it. I like talking about it. And so I always want to dig a little bit deeper on that subject. I've used all of the ones that you've mentioned. Which one of the ones that you mentioned are your favorite, or do you feel like you get the best results from?
Direct mail has always been our number one. I think all marketing channels have some ebbs and flows. Yeah. Nobody really knows why. We try to get people. I tell people when you're first starting out, pick one channel, stick with it, become really good at it, understand it. And then when you have the capital because you've closed some deals and in a good understanding, you can add another. Ultimately, I think it's important to have a minimum of 3 different marketing channels going at the same time or more. And the reason is because, direct mail may kill it for 2 months. And then for some reason it doesn't work well for a month or 2 or 3. And then all of a sudden PPC picks up and nobody knows why. Or, cold calling does great for 3 months and then all of a sudden it quits. And nobody's ever been able to identify exactly why that is. And so I think it's good to be consistent with your marketing. But direct mail for us, for 15 years probably has been the most consistent thing that we have done and gotten deals from. We do several different things, but that's always been our number one.
And so for your mailers, is it the simple kind of postcard mailer that's just, hey, I want to buy your house, give me a call? Or do you guys do a little bit more professional type of mailers? Or do you mix and match? Sometimes you do professional, sometimes you do simple.
Yeah, we mix it all up. So we do postcards. A lot of times we have done the Google image postcard where it puts an image of the house on the postcard. Mm-hmm. Yep. We've done those. We do some that are personal. It's got a picture of my wife and me on there. Hey, we're a local real estate investors looking to buy your house. We've done just the generic. We mix in letters too. So we'll do formal letters that go in envelopes and kind of mix that in. And I explain to people too, if you think about, it's easier to explain with cold calling and texting as 2 different marketing channels. It applies to direct mail as well, but different people respond to different things. Yeah. And so like, if I'm only texting my leads, there are people out there who don't text. They have older phones. They might be older and not even have a phone. They have only a landline. They don't have a cell phone or it's a flip phone. And there are people who clearly want to text more than they want to talk on the phone. And so by doing both, calling and texting the same database, I get both groups of people, the people who do want to text and the people who only talk on the phone. And so it's similar with direct mail. Some people will get the postcard. We've had people who will put the postcard in a drawer and call us a year later, and we buy the property from them a year after we sent it. And then we have other people.
It's crazy when that happens. I've had on self-storage side, I used to do a lot of mailers. And then I stopped for a little bit because I felt like it wasn't getting as good as results as other channels. But then I would have people, I hadn't been doing mailers, and I would have people call. I was like, hey, I got your mailer 6 months ago and I've been just sitting on it and I'm thinking about selling now. So I thought I'd give you a call. So that stuff, it's a slow burn. You don't think it's, sometimes you don't feel like it's working super well, but it's there. People have them. You're in their mind. And so 10 months down the road, they might give you a call.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, with the postcard, some people get the postcards and they'll call, or they'll go, oh, that's trash, that's cheap, and they'll throw it in the garbage. But then you send them a letter and they go, oh, this is a real company. This is a professional company. They open it, they read it, and then they call. So you never know who's gonna respond to which type of marketing channel. And so we actually, when we buy data, we will send them direct mail, we will text them, and we will cold call them. So that's 3 different channels of marketing. We're hitting the same data 3 different ways, just in case they respond differently to different types of marketing.
What platform do you guys use for cold texting?
Smarter Contacts.
Smarter Contact. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I it's been a while since I've done cold texting, but when we did it, it worked really well for a second, and then it didn't work really well. And so we, tried different channels. But I have never used Smarter Contact. I think we were using Lead Sherpa, something like that.
Yeah. I've used that.
Yeah.
We've used Launch Control as well. Is another one, but yeah, Smarter Contact is the one that we've been using. And I do think now texting is not near as easy now as it was 6, 7, 10 years ago. It's a fairly inexpensive way to get into the marketing side of it. And so a lot of people have done it. So it's a little more difficult, but we still get leads and deals from it.
Yeah. So let's talk about today, your business today, what you guys are doing. Might as well start with marketing. What is working? What are you guys focusing on today when you're reaching out to owners?
We're doing more PPL right now than we have in the past. So pay per lead, slightly different than pay per click. Obviously, as you know, pay per click is people are putting in, need to sell my house fast, and it's your ads or your pages are popping up in Google. You try to get ranked as high as you can so that when they click on it, they go to your website. PPL is third-party companies who are actually doing that. And then when they get a lead that's in your market, they will send it to you. It's usually a less expensive option as far as the cost per deal goes. Obviously, it costs more on a cost per lead basis than PPC, but they are asking a series of qualifying questions to make sure that the person owns the house, that they do want an offer, they have some motivation for selling, and then they turn it over to us. So by the time we get it, we already know that the people want to sell, they want a cash offer, they have a reason for selling, they're looking to sell in the next 60 days. And so that's done well. Recently, we're doing more of that than we are PPC or anything else.
Interesting. And how much do you generally pay per lead with that channel?
It's usually about $150 to $200 per lead.
Wow, that's actually cheap. It might be because of the market. I think I looked here in Tacoma, Seattle, and it was like $400, $500 per lead, and I was just like, I don't think I want to do that.
Most of those companies charge obviously by the area, and so we have all the different counties that we select, and some of those counties we can get leads for $125. Some of the counties, our leads are $300, and we can adjust our budget. That's one of the things that I love about it is from week to week, even day to day, we can adjust our budget up or down. If we want to pick up something in the county that we live in, we can raise our budget in that particular county, and we'll be the first one to get the leads if we're the highest bid. So it's depends on the area you're in for sure.
Yeah, makes sense. So once you guys get the leads, what does your follow-up process look like? Are you doing the calls, or do you guys have a VA team in-house that's doing that?
We do in-person appointments. So we're buying all in-person, all around Metro Atlanta. That's where all our flips have come. We've bought some short-term rentals and long-term rentals and stuff outside of our market, but most of our flips are in our own market. So lead comes in, we have acquisition managers who are following up, lead managers managing the leads, and then acquisition managers who are actually talking to the seller, going on the appointment, negotiating with the seller in person. And then that goes, once we have a property under contract, it flips over to our dispositions team, which is, our dispo folks who are selling the properties. So we do wholesale, some of them, depending on the situation. If it's a flip, obviously it goes over, our project manager steps in and we close on the house. Our project manager runs the flip for us, and then we list it on the MLS. If we decide we're just going to sell it to another wholesaler, our dispo team comes in and then they market it and find another buyer and wholesale it to someone else.
Yep. That sounds like a good system. So we are running the clock down, but I did want to talk a little bit about self-storage. I know you mentioned, are you doing the new development for self-storage, or are you buying existing facilities?
Yeah, new development. So I kind of jumped in the deep end from the start. I actually looked for some value add stuff that I could buy and just never found anything that actually penciled out for me. And so this particular deal was a property that had 2 single family houses on it. And I bought the property and then took it through zoning, got it approved, got a special use permit. And then once I had everything approved, I went to a friend of mine who I'd known for 10 years. He's developed 60 self-storage facilities and said, "Hey, do you want to come in on this deal with me as a GP and help me do it? Because I've never done one before." And so he came in, helped me structure it, obviously did all the underwriting to make sure that it made sense. And then came in, helped me structure the deal, helped me put the deal together, helped me raise the capital that was needed, get the bank loan, all of that. So, yeah, it's been a great learning process. I wanted to learn how to do it, and so partnering with somebody who had a lot of experience was key.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you guys doing it out there in Atlanta?
Yes, Lawrenceville, which is about 30 minutes north of Atlanta.
Huh. I've looked at tons of metros when it comes to self-storage, and a lot of Atlanta, the net rentable per square foot per capita is really high. And I feel like there's not a lot of development opportunities out there, but you guys were able to find one. Do you guys use Radius Plus to identify to what works and what areas are good to develop, or how'd you guys do that?
Yeah, I use Radius Plus. My partner, his company, they have an in-house underwriting team. So once I run it through Radius Plus, just to kind of get the basics, then I sent it over to him. This one in particular, I knew because I was buying it so cheap, I knew that it was worth more than I was buying it for. So it was worth the risk. I could sell it as a backup option. I could just sell the land as it was and get my money back and make a little bit. So it was not very risky. But this particular area, we were very fortunate. It was 3.6 feet per capita.
Oh, that's cheap.
That's low. And then very low, and 325,000 square feet of unmet demand in the area in a 3-mile radius for self-storage. And we're putting in 115,000. So it's 86 net rentable. So still, lots of room for other people to come in there. And it's on a major highway. It's next door to a brand new Walmart.
Perfect.
It's perfect. It's a home run deal. So the county actually had the property on the future land use map. They showed it as going commercial. And I discovered that during my due diligence. So I knew that they were wanting this property to go commercial. And then I had to, obviously get the special use permit. So it was a great deal. It was a great one to start with. And, we're under construction right now, so we haven't started lease up, but hopefully it'll pan out the way we expect it to.
Nice. Well, yeah, I hope as well. It sounds like all the numbers at least point that way. So it sounds like it'll be a good deal for you guys.
Yeah, we're hoping so.
All right. With that, I am going to push us into the quick question round. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. It starts with education. Could be any form. Could be a mentorship program you've been a part of, a book you've read, a movie you've seen, a conference you've gone to. I just need 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom and then one for real estate or business.
I'll start with the real estate or business. So the mastermind that I was in for a long time is called FlipGenius.
Good. Before we continue on with today's guest, I want to tell you guys about a community I'm launching on School to help investors like yourself grow your own portfolio. In this community, you'll get access to all the docs I use, all the systems I've built, everything I've used to grow my own portfolio, as well as instructions and guidance on how to get out there and find great deals, how to finance those deals, and then how to manage them for great returns. Since we're just launching it, the price will be set at a measly $20 per month, and whatever price you join at is the price you'll have for life. We will be increasing the price as the group grows, so if you're at all interested in growing your portfolio along other investors, now is the time to join. I will put the link somewhere in the bio or on our podcast website at therealestateinvestingclub.com, so if you are interested, head on over there. With that said, let's get back to the podcast.
One of probably the first mastermind that started for real estate. I started it in 2016, so a long time ago, but it's great for mentoring, coaching friends, business partners, all that kind of stuff. So highly recommend it. It's all over the country. There's investors from all over the country. Personal, I do a lot of reading. I read a ton. I read a lot of books, mostly business books or kind of self-development books, not self-help so much, but how to develop yourself, develop your thinking, your mindset, and all of that. So I would say reading is a huge part of personal growth for me.
You got a single book that you could point out, at least on the personal growth side?
Yeah. of course, the Bible is the biggest one for me. I've read it multiple times and always gives great wisdom and insight. So that was definitely my preferred. I'd say the second one was a book called True Faced. And it was a short read. I read it 15, 16 years ago, multiple times. And it was really about living authentically. So it was about removing the mask that we live behind and living authentically with people, and letting people know who you really are, and being authentic and upfront with people, and kind of changed my paradigm, changed my view of life and people, and has really deepened relationships in my life. And so that's been a huge change for me.
Very cool. Yeah, that's a good recommendation. All right, next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Brandon who was just getting started, way back when he was working with that. I think you said a construction company. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Don't ever sell any of the properties that you buy.
It's funny that, multiple people have said that. And it's always I agree. Obviously the longer you hold on to, the more money you'll make with appreciation. But sometimes I feel like it is, I guess it depends on the situation, because sometimes you can use that capital to get into bigger deals. But yeah, that's really good advice, especially for your younger self. There's definitely some deals that I wish I would have held on to. But it's a 20, hindsight's 2020 thing, right?
Right. And I think too, I tell people now, cause I agree, the cash flow, from flipping houses, as an example, is huge. Or if you get a big offer for a self-storage or a multifamily, it might make sense to sell it. But for single family, I'll tell people, if that's the case, flip 3, buy 1 to hold, flip 3, buy 1 to hold. That way you're getting the cash from flipping the houses, and then you're buying long-term assets as well.
There you go. All right. Next question is about the U.S. It's a big place. There is a lot of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
It'd have to be Atlanta. It's my backyard. I grew up here. I'm from Atlanta. Went to college elsewhere, but grew up in Atlanta. I think Atlanta is one of the only major metros that you can still buy property at a decent price. I got a property sent to me yesterday that was $80,000.
Wow, really? I thought Atlanta was getting up there. Average purchase price was like 350, 400, something like that.
It is, but there's still pockets of Atlanta, and especially south of downtown Atlanta. There's still areas where you can buy. So if you're buying rental properties, you can buy them for $100,000, $120,000, $130,000 and spend minimum $30,000 and have a great rental property. Our target for our flips is in the 350, to 400 range for retail sales price. But if you compare that to any of the other major MSAs, there's no way you can buy a house in New York or San Francisco or any of the other major metropolitan areas, Seattle, for $100,000, $150,000. And Atlanta has obviously the world's busiest airport. And then we have lots of major corporations, Fortune 100 companies, like, you got Home Depot, Delta, a lot of big companies here. So personally, I think Atlanta is the best market to invest in, but I'm a little bit biased.
No, I've also heard good things about Atlanta, so it's a good recommendation. All right, next question is about lessons learned. Not every deal that we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, many times, if not every time, something goes wrong, but that's when we get to learn a lesson. So what was a deal that went a little sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
Oh man, there's so many of them. I could write a book on all the mistakes that we've made and the lessons we've learned over all these years. But I think trying to time the market is impossible. That's probably a lesson that I've learned over 20 years, because we've been through a few cycles. We had a land development deal that we did in 2008, 2009. We bought the land, subdivided it. We were going to sell the lots. So it was a typical land neighborhood development. And everything was lined up perfectly for us to do really well on it. We had some delays with the county not approving things. We had some problems with our architect. We had to change to a different architect. In the long run, it delayed us about 4 or 5 months in being able to sell the property. And during that time, the market tanked. So that was right in the 08, 09 crash. And so we ended up, instead of, making $1.5 million, we ended up taking back a note with the bank. So we didn't have to file bankruptcy, and paying that note over a 10-year period. So we agreed to do a short sale with the bank, and we took a 10-year note at 3% interest. And so basically paid for another house for 10 years to get out from under that deal. So you can't ever time the market. No matter what you do, no matter how hard you research it, you just can't time the market.
Yep. Yeah. That's why I have a hard and fast rule that I will not buy a deal unless it cash flows in today's numbers. I'm not about, appreciation is great and value add is great. I love that. But it can't be the only thing you're banking on. It needs to make sense today, or else I don't know why you're buying it. You really cannot time things like that.
Yeah. I love it.
All right. That is the struggle that you went through. Let's go to a deal that went perfect. One of your favorite deals. Take us to it. How'd you get it? How'd you find it? And what'd you do to it to fix it up?
Yeah, my favorite deal is the self-storage deal right now, and we're not full cycle on it yet. But I wanted to get into it for years. I love self-storage. I love the business model, and certainly I love the economics of it. As far as the single-family world, the worst house that we ever bought was the house we made the most money on, and it was in a good area, but the house was completely run down. No power, no water. They were using the restroom on the back porch. People still lived in the house, and the pipes in the floor had busted and drank when they still had water, and had flooded the basement, and they didn't ever go down in the basement. So they didn't realize it. And then eventually they cut the water off. And so it was completely molded out. It looked like it was gray paint on the walls. It was actually mold.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
It was so bad that I wouldn't even let my wife walk through it. I was like, you cannot even see this one. It's disgusting. And so anyway, we bought it and closed on it, and then cleaned it out, which took about 8 dumpsters to clean out. And then I just threw it up on the MLS as is. I didn't do anything to it but clean it out. And we made right at $128,000 selling it as is. So didn't have to flip it, didn't have to spend the time and effort, and energy, and made $127,000 and change on it.
Easy. I love it. It's crazy what just taking the garbage out does to a property, the perceived property value there. And so that is a great deal for sure. All right. That leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a 2-parter. Where can they find you? And then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah. So we're, our website's FlipGenius.com. So they can find me there. My email address is Brandon, BRANDON at theflipgenius.com. We're on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, TikTok, all that at Brandon Rickman at the FlipGenius. So you can find us anywhere there. And then, I'm happy to help any way I can. If people are wanting to reach out about how to raise money for multifamily or self-storage deals, obviously I've done that, raised a lot of money for single family stuff. So any way that I can help with regard to single family flipping or wholesaling, I'm happy to help. Or even, as we get into the self-storage stuff, anything I can do to help there, happy to share my experience and some of my bumps and bruises, and maybe help other people avoid those themselves.
There you go. I'll put that link in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down the full description, and there you can find Brandon's link. All right, man, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Thank you, Gabe. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. For everybody who's with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. If you guys want to support the show, just leave us a review. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. All right, before I officially sign off, I have a quick announcement to make. If you're interested in becoming a passive investor in one of my deals, my own company, Kaizen Properties, is looking for capital partners for our upcoming projects. We invest in what are known as recession-resistant assets, mainly self-storage facilities, mobile home and RV parks, and industrial properties. If you're interested in investing and would like to learn a little bit more about my company, our investing criteria, and some of the previous projects we've done, Go to the Real Estate Investing Club podcast at therealestateinvestingclub.com and scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Click on the Invest With Us button. That'll pop up the investor form. Fill that out, and we will reach back out to you as soon as we can. Or if you prefer a little bit more of a personal touch, you can reach out to me at gabe@therealestateinvestingclub.com. So really, that is it. Again, it was a pleasure hanging out with you guys during this episode, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.